Hello and welcome to the show. Well, auction numbers around Australia are up slightly. The market seems to be adjusting more to the online auction concept. Back with Kevin Brogan in just a moment. Outsourcing will dramatically improve your productivity and profitability. Sure Agents have created a staffing solution to provide great staff who can perform duties in property management, sales, marketing and administration, and at a fraction of the cost, giving you and the team more time to spend on the dollar productive tasks. With rising costs and slowing revenue, the focus must be on value for money. Check it out, sureagents.com. Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic joins me. Kevin, welcome to the show once again. Thanks for your time.
No problem, Kevin. Pleasure to catch up with you every week.
People seem to be adjusting to the online auction concept. Any comment on that just before we bring the numbers up, Kevin?
Yeah, look, I think one of the characteristics of this week's numbers is perhaps a new sort of equilibrium between the number of listings and the new methods that are being used to sell properties listed for auction. So this week, the properties that were listed were put on the market in full knowledge of the coronavirus restrictions and situation. So the number of withdrawn properties is very much down. And as you'll see in a moment, the preliminary clearance rate sort of reflects a much more sort of normal balance between listings and activity.
Let's bring those numbers up for you now. These are the preliminary clearance rates, and we can see Sydney 62.7%, Melbourne 63%, Brisbane 21.4%, Adelaide 62.5%, Perth at 14.3%, and Canberra 72.2%, giving us a weighted national average of 59.6%. But once again, we must say these are off a small number of auctions, Kevin, aren't they?
Oh, look, there were almost 600 auctions this week, and that is about a third of the number that we had last year. Bearing in mind that this time last year we're still just slightly in advance of the federal election when the confidence really sort of returned to the market. So very low activity, but as I say, perhaps a little bit more of an equilibrium with those withdrawn results being relatively minor part of the overall picture this week.
We saw 269 scheduled auctions in Sydney, CoreLogic reporting on 177 of those, still fairly quite represented, and 111 of those auctions were cleared. One of those was actually at 73 Watkins Street in Newtown, sold for $2,410,000 by the team at Ray White. Nathan and Sean selling this one. They'll take us through that in just a moment. Newtown, a very stylish inner city Sydney suburb, Kevin?
Look, it is. It's only about 3 or 4 kilometres to the southwest of the Sydney CBD, and lots of character homes in this locality. This property last sold in 2008 for $890,000. As we comment, the highest sales often occur in those suburbs and locations that are tightly held, and this is no exception. I mean, the average length of ownership is almost 15 years in Newtown. Also seen modest population growth over the last 5 years at 6% population growth. And the median house price is about $1.34 million, which is down just a fraction on 2019.
Sale price here, $2,410,000. Let's have a look through that property.
Welcome to 73 Watkins Street in Newtown. I'm Nathan Briggs, and along with Sean Stoker, we're really excited to show you through this property. Let's take a look. As you walk up to the property, you find this grand terrace showing off all the traditional features that you're looking for. As you walk into the property, you are greeted with a grand hallway and high ceilings. On the first floor, you have dual living spaces, you have your open plan kitchen dining space, and that all important sunny backyard. At the front of the home, you also have your large 4th bedroom or office space. On the second floor, you have 2 large bedrooms with a family bathroom and that all-important master with ensuite. And what a location. Watkins Street is one of the prime locations in Newtown for a reason. You are close to Newtown King Street, you are close to Erskineville Village, along with the all-important transport, McDonald Town Station, Erskineville Station, and if you want to walk a little further, Newtown Station.
Yeah, fine property, and congratulations once again to Nathan and Sean, the team there from Ray White, selling that one for $2,410,000, 73 Watkins Street, Newtown. Let's go to Melbourne now, and yeah, interesting sale this one, South Yarra, a very nice solid brick Victorian home, Kevin, 25 Howlett Street at South Yarra, R.T. Edgar's Anthony Grimwade selling this one. We'll have a look through that in just a moment. South Yarra, once again, one of those inner city suburbs, Kevin.
Oh, look, it is. I mean, South Yarra would be familiar to non-Melbourne residents, I would imagine, as being a high-value location. It's only about 5 or 6 kilometres to the southeast of the city of Melbourne, and once again, it's a very tightly held area. Now, this property last sold in 2016 for $1.85 million, so you can see very similar sale price achieved this week. South Yarra's had a population growth of over 30% over the last 5 years, and the median price for houses is about $1.62 million, and that's down a little on peak, but it is up on 2019.
I'm going to come back in just a moment and we'll have a look at what's happening with prices around Australia. But before we do, let's have a look through that top sale out of Melbourne, 25 Howlett Street at South Yarra. Here it is. In a location prized for its close proximity to Hawksburn village shops, cafes, Chapel Street, Pran Market and public transport is this classic Hawthorn solid brick Victorian. Nestled behind a garden of greenery and featuring arched hallways, high ceilings, a well-appointed kitchen, light-filled living and dining areas, central bathroom and a guest restroom, as well as 3 bedrooms, Anthony reported a lot of interest leading up to the auction, so much so that it sold prior. The home also comes with hydronic heating and cooling right throughout. A north-facing courtyard garden with studio or storage shed is complemented by easy off-street parking and the provision to accommodate 2 side-by-side car parks accessed through Joy Street. Sold on 23rd of April for $1,950,000 by Anthony Grimwade from R.T. Edgar. Okay, welcome back. That takes you through our top sales in Sydney and Melbourne. Kevin, just before we go today, I just thought we might have a look at the CoreLogic report that was out on Friday, and I caught up with Tim Lawless on this one too. So we might spend a moment or two just talking about the change in dwelling values. Interesting, I talked to Tim in the interview I did with him on Real Estate Talk about the variation between regional and cap city markets and how the regional markets seem to be holding up a little bit more robustly, Kevin.
Yeah, look, I think where we've seen the most impact has been, well, actually, particularly in Melbourne, on dwelling values, the biggest change, but also perhaps in Sydney. And of course, those cities that demand for property is very much underwritten by overseas migration and even interstate migration, which, of course, has been suspended. Some of the regional areas, obviously, relying on the sort of traditional economy and perhaps not quite as hard hit by the coronavirus restrictions as we've seen in the more densely populated capital cities.
Yeah, well, you can see on that report we've got on the screen now that the combined capitals recorded growth of 0.2%, the regions at 0.5%, and Australia nationally 0.3%, showing once again if you compare that, say, to the last 12 months, quite a shift there, Kevin, isn't there?
Oh, look, it certainly is. So what we've seen is the rate of increase is very significantly reduced because it was sitting at one point in Sydney and Melbourne at almost 2%, I think about 1.7% per month. So the slowdown is really quite significant, but it is interesting that the prices are performing much more resiliently than auction activity and market activity. And I think that's because we've seen the supply of properties drop off so sharply, as well as the demand. So it's not like a sort of typical downturn where there's still a very plentiful supply of property and falling demand. That tends to have a more pronounced impact on prices. So there will be an impact on prices, but it is just a little bit more tempered or mitigated, if you like, by the supply drying up as well.
Another interesting aspect about that report too, and that was the RP data collection of agents' activities pre-listing. That's actually declined rather rapidly, which is an indication that listings are probably going to slow down even more in the short term, Kevin.
Yeah, look, what you're referring to there is a lot of agents use RP data in order to sort of inform their clients of what's happening in the market. And we've seen that product, a comparative market analysis, the use of that product has really sort of dropped off. And that is an indicator that perhaps agents aren't speaking to potential clients as much in order to bring their property to market. But you know, I mean, the announcement in New South Wales that there are going to be some restrictions lifted on auctions and home inspections, I think it'll be something that we'll be watching that sort of data really closely to see whether people then start turning their minds to when they're going to list a property. And
we've seen restrictions on open homes lifted in WA as well. So I guess it's only a matter of time until it becomes Australia-wide, and then we'll just see what the impact of that is as it comes through. Kevin, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much for your insight. Just quickly before we go, bring up those preliminary figures once again for you. Sydney 62.7%, Melbourne 63%, Brisbane 21.4%, Adelaide 62.5%, Perth 14.3%, and Canberra 72.2%. Those figures from CoreLogic. Kevin Brogan joins me every Monday and every Friday with an in-depth look at what's happening in the auction activities, and we've broadened that to give you a look at the market in general. Kevin, thanks for your time. Look forward to catching up with you again on Friday.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Kevin.